My heart is in.
Alright, what's going on YouTube? It's Boxing Wave. I wanted to do a couple videos before I got out of here. I'm leaving for Vegas tomorrow and just doing some packing and I figured I'd do a couple videos before I left just in case I go out there and the Wi-Fi and the casino's not that good, and I'm gonna bring my laptop to do videos while I'm out there though, definitely. But if the Wi-Fi is not that strong, I'm gonna just hold the videos until when I come back. All right. So anyway, let's talk Floyd Manny Pacquiao stuff. You know what? I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna make a separate video. It's two videos I want to do, but I want to talk about ESPN and their coverage. I know D Style Boxing, who you see me do videos with this past few weeks. He made a video talking about First Take, ESPN's First Take, and how he dislikes them and how it's all like rehearsed. You could tell that they rehearsed the topics of the day, and their coverage and knowledge on boxing is not so well. Um, and I wanted to speak on that and other things because I've been watching ESPN and they've been covering like this fight really, really hard, like more than anybody right now. ESPN has been all over this. I mean, they're having all of these legendary fighters come in visiting. Um, they have this whole they're already out in Vegas covering the fight now, live from Vegas. They're giving this the Super Bowl treatment, okay? And I like it and I dislike it for several reasons. I'm going to discuss that. Now, as far as ESPN covering boxing, okay, this fight, I like it because it's bringing more attention to the fight. You know, for them to not really ever cover boxing like that and to cover this fight is bringing more attention to the fight. Okay, so I do, in that sense, like, I do want it to be successful. I do want them to have a nice amount of pay-per-view buys because I want everything good to be, I want there to be good results in boxing in general. All right, this is a fight that people want to see. There's no catch weights. They're fighting for their titles. There's no reason not to really support it unless you have personal feelings against a certain fighter. And I'll get to that in one moment. But I want it to be successful, so I'm glad ESPN is stepping up and basically taking over the coverage for this fight. All right, now. The thing about First Take, all right, and I watch First Take, okay? I watch it mainly for basketball, football, and baseball, all right? I watch almost every sport, at least the major sports here. Not as much as boxing, obviously, but, I mean, I do love basketball right after boxing. I would love for them to cover boxing and MMA more, but they just don't. But anyway, I watch First Take for basketball arguments, football arguments, a little bit of baseball. I watch baseball, but not as much as basketball, you know. But I watch it for those sports. When they cover boxing, normally they cover boxing when Floyd has a fight coming up, maybe if Manny has a fight coming up, but that's just about it. They really don't cover boxing, okay? And when they do talk boxing, it's usually about Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather. I go into detail. Like when they cover, because I watch the show all the time. When they cover boxing, they're usually saying, Skip is saying, Floyd doesn't have no power. He's scared of Manny Pacquiao, blah, blah, blah. We've been hearing it for years. And Stephen A counters and says, Floyd is the best in the game. He's the money man. He talks all that good game about Floyd. It's a typical Floyd Mayweather Manny Pacquiao argument that people say, Floyd is a technician, all of that stuff. Same thing that most generic fans would say about the fight. And then Stephen A. or then Skip Bayless say, yeah, well, they talk often about the Sugar Ray Leonard thing. Oh, Sugar Ray Leonard would have knocked Floyd out. He had power, plus he had the skills. And then Stephen A. says, yeah, but his defense is so good. And, and then he talks about Wilfredo Benitez, and the same argument every single time. They say the same things. It's so rehearsed. Yes, it is rehearsed. That's why I don't watch it for boxing. Okay, but the thing is, it doesn't bother me because I don't watch them for boxing, and you're not gonna know everything about every sport. You're gonna have some knowledge on the sport. I'm a diehard boxing fan, so I'm not gonna like what they're saying because I probably know more than both of those two guys about boxing than both of those two guys combined about boxing. So it doesn't really bother me. I watch them for basketball and football. Now when it comes to basketball or football, well, I would say basketball because basketball I probably have a lot more knowledge about basketball than I do with football. But there's people that I know are die-hard basketball fans. Like they know everything. They're like human statistics, and they watch the show and they think it's a joke because they know so much more about basketball than those two, even though they know pretty good amount of info about basketball. That they can't stand the show. I mean, they watch it, but they can't stand it because they think they're just casuals. Whereas I like it and I enjoy it. They know more about basketball than me. I know a lot about basketball, but they know more about basketball than I do. So I'm entertained by it. So it's always going to be that way. If you're a die-hard fan of anything and you don't agree with those guys or whoever that covers sports on national television, you're always going to have a problem with what they say, especially if you disagree on some point. You're always going to say they're casual. It's just the way it is. But they get paid the big bucks because of how they present it. They present it in a way that they want the networks want them to present it, and this is why they're on TV covering the sports. So it doesn't really bother me. And when it comes to boxing, it's the same thing. It's like, all right, yeah, I know they say the same generic stuff every single time they talk about the fight, but it really doesn't bother me. I don't have no high expectations for them to cover the sport. Now, I like that they're covering the sport. I mean, the fight. I would like them to cover the sport more. Okay, Klitschko and Genesis had a big fight. It was a heavyweight match. The heavyweight match, not Deontay Wilder and Stavern. I mean, that was a big fight too, but this was the heavyweight match. They had a lot of views. I don't know if they sold out in Madison Square Garden, but they had a lot of people attending that fight. This fight was huge, okay? They should have been covering that fight, okay? We should have seen that fight on First Take, or His and Hers and all the other shows that's on ESPN. They should have been covering it bigger because that is a huge fight, all right? And I don't know if they did. I don't think they did because I never seen anything on it, but they should have been covering that fight. Not on this level, but they should have been saying something to try to get more people to tune in for that fight because that is a big fight. And it happened in New York. It's not international. It happened here in New York, so they should have covered that fight. And that's what I'm worried about. Yeah, I like what they're doing with Floyd and Manny Pacquiao now, but after next week, after the fight is over, and they're gonna talk about it the whole week, and they're gonna bring up different stats and all of this talk, and they have people come in to talk about the fight. After next week, are we gonna never hear about boxing again until the next Floyd fight or the next Pacquiao fight? If they have a rematch, are we gonna never hear about it again? Look, they got all these guys. While I'm talking to you, they have Roy Jones on ESPN right now with Teddy Atlas, okay, and Bernard Hopkins. They have all these guys covering the fight. But are we going to forget about the sport of boxing after this fight is over and just wait until the next Floyd fight? I hope not, but I kind of expect that because they didn't even talk about Klitschko and Jennings last week. So I would like for them to focus more on boxing. Hopefully this does open doors. Hopefully the PBC thing on ESPN shines some more light on boxing. Okay, in general, you know, um, we had Friday night fights before on ESPN, and it was cool for the diehard fans like myself that liked it, or even some of the casuals that watch it. But wasn't really getting a lot of views. They weren't talking about the fights, before or leading up to the fight or after the fights were over. They would never talk about it. So I would like for them to focus more on boxing not just the Mayweather fight, okay? Because Mayweather and Pacquiao are on their way out. I would like them to discuss some of these new up and coming fighters that's in the division, except just Floyd. So that's my thoughts on that. As far as ESPN and First Take, yeah, it's rehearsed. It's definitely rehearsed, and it's okay. It's cool because at least they're talking about it when they talk about it. But they need to discuss more other fighters on the come up because these other fighters are the future of the sport. Not really Pacquiao and Floyd. They already made their money. They already paid their way. They already did what they had to do. These guys are on their way out. Let's not talk about them no more. That's why you rarely saw me make videos about Floyd and Manny Pacquiao. I rarely ever made videos about them until the fight was signed and sealed. Because why shed light on them and not on some of these other fighters that's getting no attention. So that's how I feel about that. There's some people out here, especially YouTube channels, all they do is talk about Floyd or Manny Pacquiao, is one or the other. I mean, they'll talk about other people too, and I'm not saying make videos about whatever you want to do, but my logic is let's talk about some of these other fights that people don't even know about, so we can get more views on those fights. So I don't really have a problem with ESPN covering. I just hope they do more. They have the personnel there. I hope they just, I know it's all competitive. The sport network industry, ESPN just want to outdo everybody. That's just how they are. All right. I know for a fact that's how they are. They just want to outdo everybody. This is a big fight, so they want to cover it and be all over it more than any other network out there, which is great. It's a competitive nature. That's just them. But let's see more from that after this fight is over. Okay, take 3 minutes out of a segment on First Take just to discuss a Klitschko and Jennings fight or a Klitschko and Deontay Wilder fight if they do happen to fight. Or some of these other welterweights. There's a lot of other welterweights. You got other guys that are somewhat kind of getting famous. You got Cotto. They talked about Cotto on Rock Nation before. That's cool, but Cotto signing the Rock Nation is big news because Cotto is a pay-per-view seller, a pay-per-view caliber fighter. That's fine, but let's talk about some of these other fighters too that's on the come up because Cotto, in my opinion, is on his way out too. After his contract is over with Rock Nation, he might be done if he's getting $50 million. So that's my point. I have no problems with them discussing it. If you have a problem with it, like D-Style made a video, and I agree with everything he said. But like, I'm not looking at it as a way like, they should just stop talking about it because they should. Oh, one more thing. This is what I wanted to bring up as far as people when I said earlier about people went into their feelings and stuff. This is what I have a problem with too about the Floyd Mayweather coverage on ESPN. Today and yesterday, they strongly they based a lot of the time today uh, discussing Floyd's domestic past. The last 2 days. Now they've been covering this fight for the last 2 months. They've been all over this fight since it's been signed. Why are you waiting until the last week to discuss Floyd's domestic issues? 2 days in a row. All right, it's Tuesday now. Yesterday was Monday. They talked about it yesterday. Stephen A. and Skip Bayless. And today they had a group of four different people that's not usually on there discussing it today. Okay, why are they discussing it today? It's in the past. Floyd did his time for it. Why are they discussing it now? Okay. I have a problem with that, and I question the motives of them discussing it this week. I know since they're talking about the fight, they kind of have to play catch up because they never talked about it before. But it's over, and he's had a few fights since then. Why discuss whether or not the sanctioning body should have suspended Floyd or boxing works totally different. Okay, you're not gonna get the same. This is not football, okay? They're not going to kick you out of the franchise or suspend you a certain amount of games or a full season because of domestic violence. That's just not how boxing works, okay? And regardless, why are they still bringing it up this week? Why this week, which is kind of unfair. But I mean, it is what it is. They want to paint this picture that Floyd is the bad guy, and it works. It sells fights, so it works. So I don't really have a problem with that, but at the same time, they're trying to make Floyd. He likes to sell himself as the bad guy, but he's not the same person as he was when he fought De La Hoya. But at the same time, now you have the media trying to create him as the bad guy as well. And they taking his domestic past, which is the past, and he's already did his couple months for it. They shouldn't be doing that the week of the fight when they haven't talked about it or talked about it when it was first news. All right, not on this level at least. So that's my thoughts on all of that. I'm gonna make another video, give you my final thoughts on this big fight and how I think it's gonna go. I already did a prediction video, but this is like a week of final thoughts. Gonna be real quick, and make sure you hit subscribe.